So my last video was met with much fanfare, and I'm really excited to see all the comments that I got over here on YouTube and a lot of the feedback that I got from people. I really appreciate the comments. I really appreciate how nice everybody's being. I do want to say though, I know I get a little snarky. Don't hold it against me. It's who I am. Today on the K2 saga, here is where we are. There has been two updates to the firmware since the last time I made the video, and so far marked improvement. Just overall things have been going really well. Again, the printer good, the slicer not so good. I'll show you guys what we are working on today. I'm starting to do some more high temp filaments because this does have a hardened steel nozzle in it, and I just want you guys to take a little gander here at what we got on the build plate today. So this is a model that I'm working on, and it is carbon fiber, so just so you're aware, but absolutely phenomenal quality on this print. In fact, I'm really impressed. So this is carbon fiber PETG that was not dried. This is from a company called SliceWorks, and it's probably some of the best carbon fiber PETG, I think sub $35 that I've ever seen. So since the last time we talked, like I said, there was two updates. It talked about the pre-start algorithm, how long it takes to start the printer and how long it takes to start a print, and those are both very, very welcome. Also, since the last time we talked, I wanted to make some mentions about the belt tensioning. So I've done a little investigation, and you guys were right down in the comments. The belt tensioner is nothing more than a belt, I'm going to call it a belt awareness system. It's a sensor that lets the printer know what the tension is currently on the belts. Now, if something goes awry, you are going to have to take some things apart probably and adjust that yourself. Outside of that, there really has been no issues. Like I said, great bed adhesion, great first layer. Every problem that I had so far has been self-inflicted. I saved this to show you what happens. Whoops, things are going everywhere. This is what happens when you have, so just like a Bamboo Lab, you have to set the filament type in the screen, or you can do it from the slicer, but you have to tell it that it has loaded with PETG. If you don't, regardless of what you put in the slicer, regardless of what you send over from the slicer, it's going to print PLA, which is weird to me. So in my opinion, the G code should override this, whatever this is set at, but it did not. So I set it at 240 degrees and it started printing at 220 degrees because that's what it said on the screen when I loaded the filament. And that is a flaw with this printer. For a slicer that's got so many problems, that slicer should not be overriding anything. While we're also talking about the slicer, I want to make a couple of updates to this. So in the slicer here, right? So I can go down here. This is, by the way, in the device tab, this is where you are supposed to adjust, or where you're supposed to set the filament. So my problem with this printer is the slicer is I click on this and I change the, I can't change it because it's printing. It will not change in the slicer. So this little menu's here, I've tried to set it, doesn't work. So then I go back over to the prepare tab and I click the synchronize button, doesn't do, it says it synchronizes, doesn't do anything. So even up here I set PETG CF and tried to see if that worked. That did not work. Every time I'd send a print over to the printer, it would print like it was PLA, even though in the slicer I had PETG set. Now, I don't know if that's just like a glitch or what the case is, but that ain't no good. And you saw what happened on that first layer. Now, when I saw that, I went to the printer because I couldn't get it to change in the slicer. So I went to the printer and I adjusted it to generic, CFPETG. And that's what you see now. Everything's been printing great since. But in my personal opinion, that should not be the case. It should print whatever you send over in the slicer. If the slicer set the PETG, ABS, PLA, or whatever the case may be, that ought to be what it prints, but it doesn't seem to be doing that. So maybe I just uncovered a little glitch. I don't know. But Yeah. And to me, setting the like on a bamboo lab, for example, you set the type of filament, you set the color, the brand, and all that kind of stuff. But when you whatever you send over from the slicer is what actually ends up printing, regardless, I believe, what the printer shows. So maybe you guys know better than I do. Leave a comment down below. Am I way off base here? Is this wrong or what? So I got a lot of response from those last videos, and I still have not heard from Creality. This thing is glitchy as ever. It is about as smooth as sandpaper. It's still popping and glocking, and I mean, it's just, this thing is a hot mess. Again, I love the printer. The printer's been pretty dang good, but this whole slicer situation needs to get rectified quickly. So there is going to be a rooted firmware for the K2 Plus, and I am here for it. So this is the guy, I don't want to butcher his name, Giluz. This is the guy that came up with the K1 and K1 Max root. This, in my opinion, I was going to throw my K1 in the garbage. I'm not even joking. This helper script and this tweaks to the Clipper firmware saved that printer for me. So I am very excited to see that they will be working on this. He said he's working on the firmware. I forget what they call it. The base firmware from Creality, but my understanding is he is working on this. So there is help on the horizon. It's just not here yet. But if you want to go donate to this guy, this is the guy that fixes the firmware for Creality. Why don't they just hire him? I don't know. But he does it for lots of companies. He also does it for FL Sun and a few others. So anyways, help is on the way. We will hopefully eventually have the firmware fixed so that we can use Orca Slicer reliably, and all will be good in the hood. If you guys got any questions, leave them down below. Let me know what you guys think about this. Are you happy with your K2? Do you feel good about your purchase? Should I get the CFS or should I wait for Orca Slicer? See you on the next one.